On this next video, we're gonna warm up our knee joint rotationally in a couple of different ways. This is fantastic for anyone who's had a knee joint injury or irritation from some other reason. It could be that you had an injury like a meniscus tear, an ACL tear, or something like that. It could be that you don't know if you tore anything, but there was kind of like a bad moment where stuff kind of went weird and it's been hurting or sore a little bit since then. You could be recovering from a surgery and trying to get back into movement. You could be just looking to develop a little bit more control in your knee. This is a fantastic exercise to get some movement around the joint surface and for our brains to understand where our knee is in space and how to control all the different ranges that exist there, all of the different movements, rotations, extensions, etc. So we'll go through those as we start here. Your knee is a combination of three main bones: your thigh bone, your femur, coming down from the top, your main shin bone, your tibia. You have two actually, but mainly the knee joint is comprised of the tibia and the femur coming together to make the most substantial surface of the joint. These two surfaces have some cartilage on top and a meniscus, which is a different type of cartilage in between them to absorb and handle the natural necessary load and rotational forces that come through the knee. There's a small interaction of this outer shin bone, the fibula, with the knee, and there's also our kneecap sitting on the front. We're mostly going to be looking at the tibia and the femur, the tibiofemoral joint here, with a rotational based exercise. What we're going to start with is looking at if we have enough range in rotation from our shin. Just by keeping our heel planted on the ground and our toes up, this movement may look like it comes from our foot, but it really doesn't. And so another point that I give people to look at is this spot right in front of the knee at the top of the shin. You can usually feel it. It's a hard pressure area. It's where we kneel on when we're bearing weight here. It's the front of our shin bone where our quad muscle inserts and attaches. And if we're rotating our shin correctly, we're going to see this bone, feel this bone move from one side to the other. So even though my foot looks like it's turning, it's actually my whole shin rotating together, both directions, versus if I leave my shin alone and I just move my foot back and forth, this is a very different thing. So we're really looking to rotate our shin here. If your shin isn't really spinning, most people are lacking enough movement inwards, internal rotation of the shin. There's another exercise that you can go back to create a little bit more space. In order to do this exercise well, you'll need to have a little bit of space to both directions. Once we have that space understood and we can see how the knee has a rotational component involved in it, we also need to remember that the knee has a bending and straightening movement involved. So we have rotation plus the bending and straightening together. What we're going to do here is called a knee CAR. It's a category of exercise, a CAR, a controlled articular rotation. The articular component means joint. There's a rotation because every joint has a little bit more to it than just being perfectly linear. And we want to do it with control. We've got the option to add an ankle weight. Mine's 10 pounds after we start to get a bit better at this movement. But we're going to start with no body weight, or only body weight, no additional weight, to make sure that we are not overloading the joint and jumping to a movement that we can't control. If you've got the range to have your knee in towards your chest comfortably, this is where I suggest that you start. It helps us avoid our thigh bone, our femur, from moving all over the place and stealing the movement that we want to create from the shin. We're going to wrap the same side forearm behind the knee. Usually I then brace against my opposite arm so my hand can come to rest on the front of my knee, and that way I can feel a little bit of the rotation that we talked about a second ago. We're going to be up on our sits bones here. You should feel like you are able to be here with stability. If not, we can always add our legs straight out in front of us so we're not working too hard to hang out here. Now we're going to add the shin rotation, again, not from our foot, even though we can see our foot moving. Straighten slightly or as far as we have the length to do. Rotate and shift inwards, really looking to see if we can feel that shin rotation happening from the front of the knee. And we're going to rock our way around the joint. We're going to make sure that we switch directions at the bottom rather than the top, because when we come to extension, we lose a little bit more of the capacity to create some of those rotations. We want to be in a nice open joint position as we do that. If you can't feel if you're doing it right, you can always keep it really baby small and just try to see, okay, as I'm doing this, do I feel something happening in here, or am I really just feeling muscles bracing and trying to pull me from my ankle? We want to do a series of these. I can't keep my knee all the way into my chest and get that full movement, so I might let my knee hang a little bit further away from my chest so I can work on getting all the way straight. We could also do this from sitting in a chair. Either way, we're making sure we involve the rotation with the extension and flexion and really control the movement that's happening at the joint. If we add our weight to this, this movement will primarily load the quads, the muscles on the front of the thigh. And that's because the quads help us with knee extension. And what we're fighting gravity to do here is to straighten our leg out. We would do it exactly the same with our weight on. We're just gonna feel that we're working a little bit harder. Because this exercise is all about control, there's no reason to take it quickly at this point. There are other exercise variations where we might speed it up and take it somewhere a little bit further. If we then want to make sure that we're addressing all of that knee rotation and options that we have here at this joint, we want to make sure that now, instead of doing it with our leg bent, we do it with our legs straight, because the muscles around our thigh will be in different positions of length. So we're going to bring ourselves up to standing. I've got my box here. You can use a bench, a table, something to support our upper body, so we can really think about what we're doing with our leg. As I'm demonstrating again on this right side, I'm going to let my two thighs hang out next to each other, but all of the movement that I'm going to be creating is actually happening at the knee. This is almost like a hamstring curl, but we're really focusing on the movement of the knee rather than the curl component. So we're going to create that rotation, again, not coming from our foot, but coming from our shin, rotating one direction, tap the mat, switch the directions while bent, tap the mat, and return back and forth, making this kind of a rainbow movement. If you feel your arch or your shin really cramping as you do this, you're doing something wrong. We can then add our ankle weight back on, and instead of getting the quad load like we did on the first variation, we're gonna get the hamstring, because now we're fighting gravity to bend the leg rather than fighting gravity to straighten it. So we're working on our knee flexors here. We'll start in the exact same position. We're gonna find that rotation, and now you're gonna feel that the muscle work's coming from the back of the thigh. Tap, pull, shift, tap, pull, shift, tap, pull. Really trying to make sure that our thigh bone stays as still as possible, and that we're really pulling as high as we can into the movement, controlling every degree that's available to us here.